Salve omnes, and welcome back. In this video, we will be going through lines 561 to 578, the very end of the AP syllabus readings for Aeneid Book 1 in Latin. Of course, we are reading the whole thing in English. But this portion right here covers Dido's response, her breviter response, gratias Deo, thank goodness, to Ilioneus' speech in which he laid out the Trojan situation, talked about the unfriendly welcome they received upon sailing up to shore, and asked for her aid in refitting and repairing their fleet before they seek to either sail on to Italy with Aeneas or, if he's dead, sailing back to Sicily so that they can live with Acestes as their king. So let's go ahead and get into it. Not a lot of lines this time, so this will be a short one. Tum breviter Dido. Then Dido briefly. And of course the verb down here is profatur, she spoke. But we have this little bit to get through first. Voltum demissa. This voltum might be vultum with a U. Those spellings vary from manuscript to manuscript. Voltum demissa. So what is this? Well, this is, demissa is the participle modifying Dido, and it's something like cast down or lowered with respect to her face. And there's a very long note that talks about all of this. This voltum here is something called a Greek accusative, and we don't need to get into that right now. It's not actually an object. It's technically in Latin referred to as an accusative of respect, but the origin of it is Greek, and it has to do with something that Greek has that Latin does not, called the middle voice. Latin does not properly have a middle voice, but in instances like this, it effectively has a middle voice. And we're not going to labor very long on this. I have put a link below to a video that explains the accusative of respect, the Greek accusative, in much greater detail. But basically it just means that Dido lowered her face. All right, so what does this mean that she lowered her face? Well, remember, she is sitting upon a lofty throne. All right, she is sitting raised up from everyone else. So as she lowers her face, we see that she is addressing Ilioneus directly in her response. She's speaking to him almost as an equal, right? She is deigning to look down upon him. In some, in some cultures, it's considered rude or unbecoming to gaze directly upon the monarch, upon the ruler. And of course, such a monarch would never deign to look directly in the eyes or in the face of a suppliant. But in this case, Dido is not that sort of ruler. She lowers her face, she looks at him directly, and she speaks briefly. So here we are, Dido's words. And her very first words are, of course, the very first line here is meant to put the Trojans at ease. Solvite corde metum teucri secludite curas. Literally, dissolve your fear, right? Let go of the fear from your heart. In your heart is also fine, that's fine. But with solvite, we might take an ablative of separation, right? Let it go from your heart. That's actually what your note suggests. Trojans. And, there's no et or que or anything, but we understand. And secludite curas. Put aside your cares, right? Literally, cludo, claudo, close them up, right? Set them aside, put them away. Res duret regni novitas metalia cogunt, moliret late finis custode tueri. So the note talks about this. The race, it's all about the race here. So the res dura, the harsh situation that Dido is facing, and the novitas regni, the newness of my, we understand, kingdom. So this again, right, we have to consider the context. Dido has only recently arrived on the shores of North Africa and settled the city of Carthage. We know that she has had some difficulties with some of the neighboring tribes. Ilioneus referred to her as being one who frenare gentes superbas. She has reined in or checked the arrogant tribes. So, and here Dido acknowledges it. Her situation is a harsh one, and her kingdom is new. And so these things cogunt me, they compel me. Okay? they compel me to moliri. All right, and in this sense, moliri is to undertake talia. Okay, to undertake talia. And actually, we do see that talia is a neuter plural and really should be indicated as the object of moliri, which is a deponent verb. So, hey, look, there it is. All right, so moving on. So my situation and the newness of my kingdom has caused me to undertake such things, right? And to guard, tueri, another deponent infinitive, to guard my fines, my borders, late, far and wide. This is not an adjective with custode. They look similar, but they're not. Far and wide, custode, with a guard. Okay, so here she explains why did the Trojans receive a less than immediately friendly welcome? Well, her situation is a difficult one, and her kingdom is very new. So presumably people are testing her to see if she's actually a serious ruler. And so the reception the Trojans received was not the friendliest one ever, but that's okay. Moving on here, let's scroll down. In fact, she immediately follows this up with a rhetorical question. Quis nesciat, right? Quis nesciat. Who doesn't know, right? Who is ignorant of? Who does not know the genus Aeneadum, the race of the descendants of Aeneas? This is a genitive plural. The descendants, the race of the Trojans. Who does not know the city of Troy, right? The virtutes and the viros, now virtutes, what, the virtues? No, the courage and the men, right? Again, this is really best probably understood as another hendiades. All right, it might make more sense to us in English to say something like, who is not aware of the virtuous men of Troy, right? But the virtues and the men of Troy. Who is unaware of these things? And then last thing, who is unaware, nesciat, of the fires? This is the object of nesciat. Who does not know the fires of such a great war? So Dido is acknowledging, which again, Ilioneus has not seen the temple friezes that Aeneas has. There is a temple right outside, right, which is decorated with scenes from the Trojan War. So of course we know about the Trojan War, she's saying. Of course we do. We know who you are. And then she goes on to even say that we're not ignorant, we're not savages. And she does this in a very, very artful way. Poini. So here are the poini, right? The thurii, the Carthaginians. We poini, we Carthaginians, do not carry, makes probably the most sense here, such obtusa pectora, such blunt hearts, right? The idea here is that, of course, why would you have a blunt heart? Well, a blunt heart suggests you don't care about things, but of course we care. We are not, we don't walk around with blunt hearts, nor, so of course we care about famous deeds of great men, nor does the sun yoke his horses so far from. That's what a versus is doing here, right? So we have to wait on our understanding of a versus here. This is a very slightly convoluted line. Nor does the sun tie up his horses, yoke his horses, so far away, and a versus, the a in a versus points us to ob. Okay? It's far away from the city of Tyre. Okay, and this is just basically a very, very fancy way. There's a note that goes into some detail about this, but basically what she's saying is, look, we may live in Tyre, which is not Troy and it's not Greece, but we are still part of the civilized world, right? The sun, we don't live beyond the borders of the sun where monsters and mythological creatures live. We live in the world, and so of course we have heard, and we do not have blunt hearts, so of course we have heard, quis nesciat, of course we have heard about the Trojan War and about the men of Troy. So she's explaining that, of course, they're going to find a welcome here. All right, let's go ahead and move on. So, having said that, she turns to the requests that Ilioneus has made. And she opens up with Seu Siwe. Whether it's this or it's that. That's what Seu and Siwe are doing. Whether it's this or it's that. Whether y'all, and then we have to come all the way down here to Optatis. Whether you all choose, this really doesn't mean wish for here. It really means choose. Whether you all decide, right, opt for Great Hesperia and the fields of Saturn. And this, of course, is referring to the fact, the mythological story that after his expulsion from Mount Olympus, Saturn came to Italy and instituted a golden age there, so hence the Saturnian fields. So, whether you choose Hesperia and the fields of Saturn, or you choose the borders of Arrakis, this is Sicily, whether you choose the borders of Sicily and King Acestes, right? No matter what you choose, dimitam, we shifted into ego, right? I, future tense. I shall send you off, dimitam, right? I shall dismiss you. I shall send you off safe, tutos, with auxilio, with my help, or with a guard or something like that. But, you know, auxilium is aid. I shall send you off safe with my aid, with my support, and iuvabo, I shall aid you, understood, opibus, with my resources. Okay, so Ilioneus asked for permission to pull their fleet up and repair before setting off either to Italy or to Sicily. And Dido says, of course you may, you'll be totally safe, I'll send you off, I will aid you with my resources, no matter where you want to go. But then it gets interesting. Let's scroll down here a bit. Then she changes tactics. Voltis, sometimes this is vultis with a U. Voltis et his mecum pariter considere regnis. So this is interesting. So she opens now with a, she plays a gambit. Would you want, or do you want? Do you want to considere mecum? Mecum pariter? Do you want to settle even in the, this is not et, right? This is not and, this is even in these lands or kingdoms, equally with me? So Dido out of nowhere here has just invited the Trojans to settle here in Carthage with her, and as equals, not as subservients. All right. As she continues on, urbem quam statuo vestrast, right? And this is urbem here has been attracted into the accusative by the presence of quam. It really is the nominative. It goes with vestra. It really should be erps. So what we understand is the city, don't let the accusative fool you, the city which I am building is yours. All right, I'm building the city. It's your city. Subducite naves. Bring up your ships. Beach them. Let's go. Tros et Tyrius. Trojan and Tyrian, or Carthaginian, right? Virgil did this probably for the meter, but also for the alliteration, right? It's quite lovely. Tros Tyriusque. Trojan and Tyrian will be, now this agetur here, there's a lot of discussion about this. It's probably something like regitur, right? Will be ruled or will be treated, something like that. Maybe ducitur, okay? So Trojan and Tyrian alike will be ruled by me, right? It is dative, but it's agent, by me, nullo discrimine, with no distinction, right? I won't distinguish. Trojan and Tyrian, everybody's the same. Okay, everybody will be the same. And then the end of her speech, let's move down here, she changes tack again just a little bit. Ad utinam. Oh, if only this utinam, right? If only. Oh, if only the king, right? The king Aeneas. If only King Aeneas, who had been compulsus, who has been driven, noto eodem. So, literally, as we translate it, by the same storm. Okay? The notus we know is a wind, technically, but In this case, it's standing in for, the storm itself, which involved all of the winds, so we just read it like that. Oh, and if only the king, driven by that same storm, as y'all were here. Ad foret, okay? This is actually, there's a note that explains it, ad futurus esset, okay? So it's just, this is a syncopated, abbreviated form that's very, very common in Latin for the future participle form of sum esse, and foret is telling us that it is in the imperfect subjunctive because this is simulating an infinitive ending, all right, for the imperfect subjunctive. Ad futurus esset. So if only he were here. But don't worry. Oh, indeed. No, equidem, indeed. Dimitam. I shall send kertos. I shall send trustworthy men. That's what kertos means in this case, given the masculine and no noun to describe. I shall send trustworthy men along the shores, right? Over the shores, through the shores. I shall send trustworthy men along the beaches. And, eubebo, I shall order my trustworthy men, right, the primary object, to lustrare the extrema Libiae, to look carefully over or to survey the borders of Libya. Okay, so I'll send people out that I can trust to go all over the shores, even to the very borders of Libya, to look over it very closely, if, sort of by chance, we understand, if having been, and this is Aeneas now, this ejectus is Aeneas because it's masculine, and that's who we're talking about, if, perchance, he has been, having been cast out, right, he wanders through some forest or city. And again, these are plural, quibus silvis aut urbibus, but you can read them plural if you like, but it is poetry, so you could read them singular as long as you're consistent. So maybe having been thrown up on the shores, we understand, he is wandering in some other forests or in some other cities. I will send certain men to know, to find out. And that is the end of Dido's speech in response to Ilioneus. She has just invited the Trojans to stay with them, and immediately following this, again, Aeneas is listening in his little cloud of invisibility, and upon hearing this, he jumps forth in a grand dramatic reveal, and it's all very spectacular, and Venus is there to make him look extra awesome, and so to wow Dido and everyone as he reveals himself and then gives a big old speech, and then we move on from there into Book 2. So thank you very much for staying with us all the way to the end here of Aeneid Book 1. And gratias, and I will see you all at some point in the future with Book 2. Walete.